Good evening. My name is Jonathan Oleski, and I'm with JMOR, and I wanted to welcome everyone tonight to a really fun show of ours, The Upside. The show is about to begin, and just as a quick reminder to everyone here on Zoom, so you can have the best experience, we recommend that you put your Zoom screen on speaker view. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce two wonderful hosts, Beth Goldsmith, Chair-elect of the Associated Jewish Federation of Baltimore, and Dr. Scott Rifkin, publisher of JMOR. Beth and Scott, take it away.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it. This is our fourth show on The Upside, and we're thrilled to be here. As you know, the show is sponsored by the Associated Jewish Federation of Baltimore and JMOR, and we're thrilled to be here. Beth will talk a little bit about the Associated, and just to give you a few comments on JMOR, we are the Jewish magazine, lifestyle magazine for Baltimore, with about 14,000 copies printed every month. And despite the pandemic, we still managed to distribute about 10 or 11,000 this month. So that's actually going well. We have an interesting show today. I'll let Beth make a few comments, and then we'll introduce our kind guest.
Thanks, Scott. Yes, we are coming to you twice a week, Tuesdays at noon and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Our goal is to bring in a different expert every session and really help to answer the questions that you've been asking. To that end, you can actually submit questions in advance, or you can enter them if you're watching on Zoom. You can enter them using the chat feature, and we'll try to get to them during the show. The Associated and JMOR have joined together out of a commitment to keep our community safe, educated, and really together during this time where we are truly in crisis. Of course, we also continue our core businesses. The Associated and its agencies are on the front lines, addressing the economic and social needs of our community. This is a really pivotal point in our 100-year history. We hope you continue to stay connected with us as we support the most vulnerable in our community, those who need us the most.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you. So every year, I look forward to the spring. And to me, the spring starts on April 1st. Now, that's not what the calendar says. But April 1st is the day the Orioles starts camp in their preseason camp. And then the first day of spring to me is the day I can plant my tomatoes in the garden. And I get my hands into the dirt and feel that renewal of life. And if ever there was a time to be able to feel that connection back to the world, back to the beginnings of life, this is a great time to do it. So we thought today, we've done some pretty heavy shows. We had folks from the hospital systems and on the social services side. And I thought today we would do a show about really a very popular hobby. Since the pandemic started, the companies that make supplies and seeds for gardening have been inundated. People are home, they have projects to do, and they're gardening, they're planting vegetable gardens. So today we have a wonderful guest with us. We have Joan Plisko, who's a Ph.D., which always impresses me because as a physician, I'm not a real scientist. Those are real scientists. She's the Community Sustainability Director at the Pearstone. And let's introduce Joan and let her tell us a little bit about what she does. Joan, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Beth. Yeah, as the Community Sustainability Director at Pearstone, which for folks that don't know, Pearstone is a fabulous 180-acre retreat and conference center in Reisterstown. We're an agency of the Associated. And our mission really is to ignite Jewish passion while connecting guests to the earth. So my role at Pearstone is to help green Pearstone even more than it is and do community outreach. And at the same time, I've been an avid home gardener for about 25 years.
Very good. So one of our missions today is we have a couple of missions. One that sort of can, and I think Beth is going to ask the questions about how do we connect gardening and similar kinds of passions to our religious and social life. And the second really is, if I'm going to start a garden, how the hell do I do it? Okay, excuse the language. How the heck do I do it? So, and not fall into the trap so that come July 1st, August 1st, we're actually harvesting beautiful vegetables. So Beth, let me turn it over to you for a few of the initial questions, and then we'll get more into the nitty gritty of how to start a really great vegetable garden.
Thanks, Scott, and welcome, Joan. I guess we should start with you telling us how our Jewish values connect us to gardening.
Sure. Well, so for gardeners, you know that gardening is literally bending down and tending the soil. And this is a central value to Judaism. There's a clear connection between the first human being or earthling, Adam, and the soil or the earth, Adamah. So really growing out of the soil is what it means to be human and is a central tenet to Judaism. So our mission to serve and protect the garden, or to be Shomrei Adamah, guardians of the earth, is a value of Judaism. For those of us that are familiar with the history of Judaism, many of us are, the historical and biblical connection to Judaism is rooted in agriculture. And in fact, the 6 orders of the Mishnah, the recording of our oral history, the first order is on seeds, Zerayim. So when Jews went to write down the oral history of culture, the first thing they wrote about was agriculture and gardening. And we can see this in our celebratory events around the holidays of Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, which are known as the Shalosh Regalim, and they mark the growing, the planting, and the harvest, the whole growing season. So Judaism really is a religion celebrating the agricultural work of the harvest. And it's from that we at Pearstone tend to the earth and teach gardening to our guests and other interested folks.
Very good. So talk a little bit about how you teach gardening. And then we'll get into some nitty gritty in a few minutes.
Well, as I mentioned, so Pearstone is 180 acres of bliss in Reisterstown. About a third of that has gardens or meadows. We have an educational program where we have a farmer educator who teaches children, adults, kids of all ages gardening. Right now, in this time where we are not all at Pearstone, we've pivoted to online gardening videos. We have a grow your own program right now where I'm creating videos in my home garden. Our farmer educator is on Facebook giving person-to-person advice. And we really invite the whole community to join in on that. So we as Pearstone can help you all plant, grow, nurture, and then reap the bounties of fresh produce from your own space.
Very good. So before you leave the show, maybe you should do it now and again later, explain how people can reach out to you and to your educator if they have questions.
Yeah, absolutely. They can email me directly, jplisco@pearlstonecenter.org, or find us on Facebook. It's called Pearstone Grow Your Own Garden, and connect with us there.
So
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, so here we are, we're in the second week of May already. Is it time? Is it vegetable garden time, Joan?
Absolutely. In fact, Scott waits for baseball on April 1st. My date for putting my spring vegetables in is St. Patrick's Day. So I planted spring crops and I've already harvested radishes. Radishes are an easy to grow early crop. I understand we might have some weather tonight or tomorrow night. It might get a little bit cold, but Mother's Day is usually my day to put everything else in. So I know that the garden shops have tomatoes and cucumbers and beans and all kinds of vegetables, especially the greens, spinach, and kale. In this cooler weather, they'll really thrive.
very good. So let's talk about that for a minute. So May 15th, you walk into your garden store and you see 2 things in front of you. You see little tomato plants and these big tomato plants with lots of flowers and little tomatoes on it. Which one do you buy? The little one.
It depends.
So I brought
First,
one. I figured
I would encourage everybody to know where their tomato plants come from. And if the big plant was grown using a host of fertilizers and chemicals, I would encourage folks to consider organic plants that have less chemicals or pesticides so that you know where it's been and you'll know what you're putting in your body. I would look at the varieties and see what resonates most with you. I like Roma tomatoes. Some people like slicing tomatoes. I would really encourage folks to grow things that they want to eat, what they enjoy.
Very good. So let me give one buying tip to folks that are listening. When you go in there and you see that really big bushy tomato plant that they're charging extra for, don't buy it. The reason it's got little tomatoes on it is because it's stressed and it's not gonna produce well. Get the littler tomato plant. Here's a nice little one. Get a little tomato plant, plant that, and it'll do much better than the big ones. So
Scott, we have a question from the Facebook audience for Joan. Joan,
go for it.
Here we go. So this is a great question right now. What are some of the easiest vegetables to plant in pots for those who only have room for a container garden?
Great question. I've been hearing a lot of that. So in addition to vegetables, I also grow a lot of herbs. So I want to answer that from an herb perspective and then also for a vegetable perspective. For me, chives are the easiest herb to grow in a pot. And lettuce this time of year, especially because you can take it in from the sun, it needs part shade, especially as it gets hotter, is really easy to grow in a pot. Again, it's going to depend what you like. If you like herbs, oregano is also easy to grow in a pot. And I've seen lots of folks with tomatoes in pots very successfully.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Go ahead, John.
Nope. That's it. Scott, you go.
Very good. No,
I'll jump in.
Fine. Go ahead, Beth.
Okay, you spoke a little about organic, and I really would love you to touch on the environment and how that's part of Pearstone's mission, I know, and what you can advise us in terms of not just what we buy, but how we care for compost, fertilizer, those types of things. If you could share that with us, please.
Sure. There's the way I like to look at everything that I buy and purchase and use is thinking about the entire life cycle of it. So if you think about lettuce that was grown in California and then was transported across the country using energy and water and people power, and then had to be driven to the grocery store, you go to the grocery store and you buy it, and then maybe you don't eat it all and some of it becomes waste, versus growing lettuce in a pot in your yard. If you look at the environmental footprint of the energy and the water, it's so much less if you can do that in your own home. And if you do that for multiple vegetables, the environmental impact is reduced and the nutrient value of what you're growing and consuming is healthier for yourself. The organic piece, again, I like to avoid as many toxic chemicals in my body as possible. And so if I can control what I fertilize with or how I grow, I'm more satisfied with what I get out of it.
So Joan, what do you fertilize with?
I compost.
Okay.
I don't use any fertilizer. I compost all of my food waste. I add my yard waste to that. I have 3 composting bins. I might get additional compost from the store, but I only use compost, and companion planting for pest management. So planting, as an example, lemon balm or mint to deter pests around certain plants.
Very good. So how if somebody can't compost? They don't have the time, they don't have the energy, they don't have the interest. What would you use?
I like a product. It's a compost. It's a bag of compost. You can get it at Home Depot. It's called Leaf Grow. It's from the compost facility in Montgomery County.
Yep, it's the leaves and grass that they pick up off your lawn. They take it there, they compost it, and they sell it back to us. And it's good stuff. I agree.
Right.
Very good. Good choice. Okay, so you're going to compost. Talk about, look, there's only a few components that go into growing. Good soil, and you talked about that.
Soil's number one.
Water and sunlight. So give advice on both of those.
Right. So you want to assess your house. Go outside in the morning, figure out where the sun rises and where it sets and what side of your house or apartment gets the most sunlight so that you can plant in the place that gets full sun. If you want to plant, like I have some fruit trees that I plant close to my house so they're sheltered. And so you have to think about both sunlight, you have to think about pests that might get in your yard. I have a lot of rabbits. So I have one raised bed that has a fence. So you have to think about sunlight, you have to think about pests and compost, mulch. When you get further into gardening, gardening is a journey. It's a lovely, lovely journey for me. In fact, last year at Pearstone, we hosted a permaculture design course. It was 100 hours on learning how to cultivate the land in synergy with the environment around us. So 100 hours on gardening and solar systems and collecting water. So really thinking about the weather patterns and water, what's dry, what gets more drainage, really observing your yard so that you can plant your plants in a place that will thrive.
Gotcha. And the sunlight?
Yeah, you want as much sun, full sun as possible.
Very good. So let's start. That 100-hour course sounds too difficult for me.
Yeah, it was intense, but it was well worth it. Yeah.
I started this with my daughter. She was 6 years old. And we went out, we planted carrots. And after a week and a half, she was bored of it, and I'm still growing stuff. But it really was a fun thing to do with my daughter. Well, talk about some of the things you could do with your daughter, your son, your children, together in the garden.
Yeah, it's a great question. My kids are a little bit older now, but when they were younger, it was so fun to say, let's go outside and pick what's for dinner. One of the fun things that the Native Americans did is called the Three Sisters, where you plant corn and beans and squash together. So you plant some corn, the beans grow up the corn, and the squash grows around it. And so they grow together, they nurture each other together. Another really easy thing to grow is, I'm growing them now, bush green beans. So they don't climb, so you don't need a trellis. You put a bean in the ground, it comes up, and you get amazing green beans. And one other thing I want to add, there's this movement right now to grow vegetables from your own food scraps. And so I tried it this year. I took one of those potatoes that was growing in my kitchen, I sliced it, and I planted it. And I've seen other people that are taking their head of lettuce, they're eating it, and when you get to the core of the lettuce, you can put the core in water on a windowsill and grow more lettuce in your windowsill and potentially transplant that to a pot. So you don't even need to go to the store and buy seeds. You can grow so many things from what you already buy at the grocery store.
Very good. Talk about watering.
Watering, yes. Really depends on the weather. If it's hot and dry, you have to water more.
Yeah, the key is to really water your plants well when it's wet, when it's dry out, because a little spray on the top isn't going to do it. If you want lots of potatoes, you got to water them.
And you want to water the soil, not the plants.
And could we delve further into, I'm just blown away, fascinated by planting my own lettuce from what's left after my salad. What else? So potatoes, I know, I mean, I've seen a potato grow its little eyes and things. Lettuce, potatoes, what other things might, perpetuate themselves?
I'm also trying green onions right now. So you get down to the white part with the roots and put that in a glass of water, and I have green onions growing in my windowsill.
And beans. Any bean you have that hasn't been cooked will probably grow. All those dry beans, cannelloni beans, kidney beans, any of them. Poke them in the garden 4 inches apart and they'll probably come up.
I'm so impressed, Dr. Rifkin. I didn't realize you were actually a garden doctor.
And behind me, I did this in the greenhouse. I have a greenhouse behind me.
I see that, but I thought it was actually a fake background.
No. This is cucumber from the greenhouse. It's about
Wow.
long, and it cost me, because of the greenhouse, about $300 to grow.
So Scott, what's your favorite thing to grow?
I'm a big tomato and corn fan. There's certain things that taste better from the garden. Potatoes, they taste like potatoes. But tomatoes fresh in the garden, picked when they're ripe, not picked when they're green. Because the ones you get in the store are picked when they're green, and they got to ripen up. If you can pick them when they're red, all the way through, they're delicious, particularly the cherries. And the other is sweet corn. Again, if you pick it the day you eat it, it's sweet. It gets starchy over time. So certain things are just better in the garden.
Well, one of the other things I would suggest for folks to plant are flowers that are pollinators. I'm sure you've heard about the collapse and the disappearance of bees. So we need more pollinators. So planting native flowers like black-eyed Susans, which is the Maryland state flower, or echinacea purple cone flowers. Those are really great to attract butterflies and bees to your yard.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and particularly if you have little kids or grandchildren, to go take them out and see not just a butterfly.
Yeah.
When those plants are ready, and the insects know, the butterflies know, and you'll have hundreds of butterflies around the plants. You can also plant milkweed.
Yes.
Milkweed will get the monarch butterflies to come land in your garden, and though that's a sight to see. The monarchs travel from, I guess it's from South America up to North America, along thousands of miles, and they stop where they see milkweed. So that's all pretty cool. You can grow those. But you're right. The pollinator thing makes a lot of sense, and people should do that. Very good. What other wisdom can you share? You've been doing this for a few years. You make these wonderful videos. What if somebody gets into trouble? Can they just call you?
They can send me an email. Gardening is a journey. It's trial and error. And some years, like this year, I had the bunny. On one of my videos, I talk about it. The bunny ate my peas and my Swiss chard. And I'm okay with that because I had peas planted somewhere else. But it is, some years there's Japanese beetles. Sometimes we have cicadas. I think they're coming next year. And really, it's a journey. You have to grow what you like, and you have to try different things. And I think, Scott, what you said is the most accurate. It's about the soil. You have to have rich soil. So every year, compost, get more soil, amend the soil, keep building it up.
And I'd argue that it's therapy. When I started doing this, I was working as a physician. I was telling people that they weren't going to live very long sometimes, or seeing them pass away. And it was an absolute therapeutic move for me to be able to go into the garden, get my hands dirty, and see this tiny little seed turn into this 8-foot-tall tomato plant.
I would agree. It teaches humility and gratitude and responsibility and hard work. And for me, during this time when we're all at home, it's emotional solace to go outside and have some quiet time. And as you said, get soil under my fingernails. Yeah,
and I wouldn't worry that much about the bunnies. Just plant a lot. It's like a salad bar. They get their share, you get your share. And it's sort of this balancing act that I always try to grow enough that if the rabbits eat half of it, I'm still good.
I love that you said that, Scott. Bunnies are my very favorite. I always love seeing them. So I think I would plant something just to bring bunnies into my yard because I enjoy them so much.
But if you want bunnies, plant vegetables in the front yard. They will all be there.
One of the other things that I love about gardening is that I share with my neighbors. And right now I have a 2-year-old next door to me, and I gave her her first radish to try. I just love that sense of newness and freshness and experience for little children, and also for my neighbors. It's this community, it's a sense of community to be able to share what we're growing and what we're cooking. And to that end, I also want to mention Pearstone right now. While we're not hosting guests in our retreat center, what we are doing is we're still growing, and we've pivoted our kitchen to a Pearstone kitchen fresh meal delivery service. So if folks are interested in fresh farm to table kosher, OU kosher meals, Pearstone is taking orders online and delivering them with contactless service. So it's just one of the ways we are staying connected to our community and providing nourishing meals and nurturing our connection to one another and to the land.
Very good.
And I know also that Pearstone has prepared meals for frontline workers as well, giving back to the community in that sense too. So thank you.
Yeah, we thank you for mentioning that. We've partnered with LifeBridge Health to provide meals to the healthcare heroes that we hear so much about. All of that information is available at Pearstone online.
Very good. Is there more about Pearstone we should know? We've heard about the gardening piece, but tell us a little more. What else goes on at Pearstone?
It's a slice of heaven. So we have Pearstone during global pandemic, and we have Pearstone every other time. We host guests, retreat center guests on a vibrant campus teeming with life, faith-based, secular, corporate, school groups, coming for an hour, coming for a week to learn, connect with the earth, and connect with one another. We have national, international groups that come and use this space. We also have a program and education department that provides wisdom and knowledge to kids of all ages. When camps are open, we have day camp, we have sleepaway camp, we have Gramp Camp, which is a great opportunity for folks to come with their grandchildren to experience the miracles of connecting with the earth together. So really it's food and farm, it's retreat, it's teaching the values of Judaism, as well as we host Baltimore City school children. So much happening.
Very good. Very good. Well, this has been wonderful, Joan. You've been tremendously helpful. Give the contact information out again.
J. Plisko, P as in pineapple, L-I-S as in strawberry, K-O, at pearlstonecenter.org.
Very good. Beth, closing comment?
I just want to say thank you, Joan. Unfortunately, I'm still marooned away from my home, so I don't think I'll be planting anything, but I certainly learned a lot, and I look forward to seeing everybody else's plantings, maybe around here, or certainly when I get back home. Thank you so much. Thank Pearstone for allowing you this time, and also for all that they are doing in this community to make a difference. I guess to wrap up our whole show, I will just say that May 5th, Tuesday, was Giving Tuesday. Actually, it's sort of a few day period of giving from May 5th to May 8th. So if you haven't made your gift yet, please know that you can do so by going to associated.org/Giving Tuesday now, and you will be supporting all the services of the Associated, and Pearstone is one of those.
Wonderful. Thank you, Beth. Jonathan, you have some...
Yep, just a few closing things. Yep, thank you all for joining us. Be sure to sign up for Jaymore's weekly newsletter at jaymoreliving.com to learn about what's going on in the Baltimore Jewish community. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there. And be sure to join Beth, Scott, and our different guests next Tuesday at noon and next Thursday at 7 o'clock. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone. Be safe.